Comic Book Savant, episode 377. Welcome back to the Comic Book Savant podcast. I'm your host, James Harris. This episode is totally about Avengers Infinity War spoiler review. If you have not seen the movie, I implore you at this point, you just stopped this audio podcast and wait till you have seen the movie to come back to listen to this. If you haven't seen the movie, I do have a non-spoiler review or recommendation because it's kind of hard to review this movie without doing some type of spoiler. So it's more of a recommendation that I've recorded in video form on the YouTube channel. It's youtube.com/comic book savant. So if you haven't seen the movie yet, or you have some friends that are curious about the movie and haven't seen it yet and want a rating of the movie or thoughts of the movie or a recommendation seeker, go out, find that video and share it with your friends, and you check it out if you haven't checked out the YouTube channel as of yet. But before we get into all that, as always, I'd like to give a shout out to my friends over at the Comics Podcast Network. If you like what I do here and you want to find more similar content to what I do here on Comic Book Savant, you can find it over at the Comics Podcast Network at comicspodcast.com. It's just basically a landing page listing of hundreds of different podcasts that are comic book related, that you can find that are single person podcasts like myself, roundtable discussion podcasts that have multiple hosts, podcasts where it's only two hosts that go back and forth on different subjects. They range from podcasts that are specific to a particular publisher, genre of comic, team book, or individual character. So you have a large variety. So if you have a moment, go by comicspodcast.com and check it out. You'll find, like I said, there are literally hundreds of different podcasts listed there for you to check out and enjoy. So if you have a moment, please do that. And last but not least, I'd like to give a shout out to my sponsor for this and every episode, which is InStockTrades.com. One of the best places you can go online when you're looking for collected editions or trade paperbacks, the like. If you're looking for omnibuses, Marvel Masterworks, Absolute Editions, your standard trade paperback, you name it. If it's a bounded comic edition, you pretty much can find it over on InStockTrades.com. If you're unfamiliar with the site, if you place an order that is $50 or more, and you live within the U.S., you get free shipping automatically, but that's for U.S.-based customers. If you happen to be outside the U.S. and you want to check out InStockTrades.com, do not let that deter you. They still have all the great savings, and they still have some of the most reasonable and competitive international shipping rates around, so you can still save a ton of money by using InStockTrades.com. I want to give a special shout out to Cameron, which is the owner of InStockTrades.com, and he's also the owner of the DCBS, or Discount Comic Book Services, as well. I have, they sponsored all the contests and all that. I've been in partnership, or they've been in sponsorship of the podcast pretty much from the inception of the podcast to now. They're helping me do some really cool stuff over on the YouTube channel. I have a special series I started up specifically for the YouTube channel called the Comic Book Collector's Guide. So many times, I thought about it that I talk about, Discount Comic Book Services, or I have over the years, and I've talked about InStockTrades.com, but I really haven't talked about how those services work and show it in detail. So I'm kind of, as a part of the Comic Book Collector's Guide on the playlist over there, I'm in the process now of doing a special video series spotlighting. I'm going to do a video spotlighting InStockTrades.com and also DCB service, our Discount Comic Book Service. So those videos will be coming out. Should be coming out during the month of May. Probably the in-stock trading one will, for sure. The Discount Comic Book Service one will either be out in late May or probably in June, because I go through the process of placing an order and actually showing that whole process, and I'm going to be doing an unboxing as the books come. So, and I think I ordered 4 books that are going to be dropping in December, not December, but in June. So I'll be doing a whole video series on that. So again, if you haven't stopped by the YouTube channel, I'm doing some really good fun stuff over there. So definitely check it out. And that's something that's sponsored by them. They're putting up, they sponsored me placing the orders and the whole 9. And what I'm going to be doing is, like, when I'm done with doing the videos and doing the unboxing, I'm just going to be giving the comics that I've purchased, because they sponsored it through them, back to you guys. So I thought it was something cool that I can kind of do. I kind of came up with this concept. I ran it by Cameron. He was really cool about it, like he is about anything that I, want to do to give back to you guys as listeners of the show. So definitely be on the lookout for that coming in May and June on the YouTube channel. But I have a lot of other videos. I do at least one video a week, and I pop up and out. Some weeks I do extra videos, just like I do the audio Comic Book Savant extra audio extra episodes. I kind of do a similar type thing with videos as well. I'm going to be upping the content I do. You've seen I've been slowly over the past 2 months upping the content on the audio podcast. I'm going to be doing the same with the videos. I've had the YouTube channel going for a while. I'm getting a little bit more comfortable in making videos and doing edits and stuff. So I'm going to be, folding in more content for you guys to consume from what I've been seeing and the feedback I've been getting just from you guys reaching out to me, that you guys are, really enjoying what I'm trying to do. So I'm trying to do more of it. So with all that being said and out of the way, let's talk about Avengers Infinity War. We've been waiting 10 years for this movie and 18 films. If you're unfamiliar, it's directed by Anthony and Joe Russo, which has been responsible for Avengers, excuse me, I'm saying this all wrong, Captain America, Winter Soldier, and Captain America, Civil War. And this is going to be first of the 2 Avengers movies they're directing. We have Avengers Infinity War and Avengers 4, which is still untitled as of today. Unless I haven't seen the news and something's came out, we still don't know what the title of Avengers 4 is going to be as of yet. This movie is written by Christopher Marcus and Stephen McFeely, which, excuse me, apologize for that. Marcus and McFeely, they've written all 3 Captain America movies, and they've written this. As far as I know, because they've already did the principal photography for Avengers 4, because they shot it pretty much as soon as they had finished with Avengers Infinity War, they went right into shooting Avengers 4. That it was written by Marcus and McFeely as well. So they've written some of the best Marvel movies we have to date. So they are one of the proven writing teams that they have over there at Marvel Films. And like I said, I thoroughly enjoy all the movies they write. The breakdown for Avengers Infinity War as follows. The Avengers and their allies must be willing to sacrifice all in attempt to defeat the powerful Thanos before his blitz of devastation and ruin puts an end to the universe. I'm not going to go over the cast because it's so massive, but we know we have the Guardians, we have the Avengers, we have Doctor Strange, we have Bucky, trying to see, we have the Wakandan, Okoye and Baku, and we have Thanos and the Black Order. So we have a massive group, and we have Doctor Strange and Wong. It's a massive cast of characters. That would take me an hour to read the whole cast if I did that. But if you've seen the movie, everybody and their mamas in this movie. I just have to state off the top that I have to say, and I went on this really, not a tirade, but I went in deep talking about the villains in the MCU and where they're ranked after I saw Black Panther. And, I was saying how, Vulture and as well as Killmonger were my 2 top villains in the MCU, and they really starting to understand that you don't have to they're starting to change their formula and starting to do a way better job with their villains, which they really had to with this film, because they've built up for so long up to Thanos that he really had to deliver the goods. And I really enjoyed how this was a Thanos forward movie. He was the star of this movie, hands down. And Josh Brolin is awesome as Thanos. Like, the motion capture, his voice, just how they wrote the character and how he delivered the lines. It was a very powerful image capture, motion capture performance. He just brought so much to that role. I had just recently reviewed Infinity Gauntlet over on the YouTube channel in preparation for the movie. I read it for the first time, and I liked the Infinity Gauntlet. I didn't love it, but I liked it. I enjoyed it for what it was. I didn't care. Thanos wasn't my favorite character, so I liked the changes in the adaptation from the source material, because we do know they based a lot of this off of elements of Infinity Gauntlet. I know it's other Infinity series, and they pulled certain things from Hickman's run on Avengers, but Infinity, where you were introduced to the Black Order. So I know certain things were pulled from there that I heard of, and I hadn't read that yet. I have it. I have it to read, but I haven't read it yet. I was trying to read it after I read Infinity Gauntlet, but I didn't want to burn myself out going into the movie, so I'll read it sometime between here and Avengers 4. I'll read that, to see what was pulled, what aspects, but I know the Black Order specifically was pulled from that Jonathan Hickman run and story, Infinity story in his Avengers run, which they were great also. They weren't developed that much, but Black Maw, or Ebony, I said Black Maw, Ebony Maw was freaking awesome. He was so formidable on screen, and he played a really good second in command or right hand man to Thanos in the movie. I really enjoyed that actor's performance of him. He was really BA, like when he was on screen, like he was a menace, man. He was wrecking shop. I really dug him. I hope Josh Brolin gets credit. I've heard a lot of people, and I've seen different reviews online and stuff like that, where they talk about Thanos is cool, but we got Thanos because of Josh Brolin's performance. So I hope more people give the actor himself, not the character, the credit that he deserves, because he did a great job in that performance. And I didn't know how he was going to do and how they were going to play it, but he was a fully realized three-dimensional character, and I think Josh Brolin's performance added so much to it and to help drive it home. Just with that voice, man, he did such a wonderful job. What I enjoyed about the movie, is the relationships. This movie was action heavy. I mean, it was nonstop. It was 2 hours and 40 minutes of nonstop action. It didn't take a lot of breaks to breathe. And it was a good thing because it kept me engaged in the movie throughout, but it was a bad thing because we didn't have a chance to do a lot of character development that we're accustomed to, and when we see kind of a Marvel movie. But it was to be expected because this was a culmination of all the events that's been going on for the past 10 years. So, it's not like we can, when we have the individual movies, this was a culmination. This was an Avengers movie. It had to pay off this massive threat of these Infinity Stones and why they were so important and why we've been seeing them chased and people dying to protect them and all this for so long. The focus had to be on that. You had to have a big payoff, and that's what this was for. Deep down, I feel like going into Avengers 4 that it's going to be a slower pace movie with maybe not so much action because, again, Infinity War, the war is over. Thanos got the Infinity Stones. He snapped his fingers. He's won. So I think we're going to have more of a character-driven character development in the Avengers 4 than we did in Avengers Infinity War, for sure. I think that was a setup of, the people collapsing to ash and eliminating so many people off the board, so you can go back to that core group of characters that we've gotten familiar with in the Avengers films and from the different films that are left on Earth. And I think it's gonna be a slower vibe movie, but really focusing on those characters, because I think coming out of Avengers 4 and getting those characters to return, we're going to have some losses of some characters leaving. Don't necessarily know if it's going to be who it's going to be. Is it going to be Tony and Cap or what? But I think it's going to be a price to pay to get all those characters back. So they're going to build up those characters to kind of give them their proper send off or swan song. So I definitely think we're going to have more of that development that we were missing in the first movie and in the second movie, which, I'm fine with it when you look at, you had to pay off so many different storylines throughout the course of this film, and they decided not to go Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter and be like, this is a 3.5 hour movie. They kept it's a relatively tight 2 hours and 40 minutes. I joke about this all the time. Like, I don't really ever go to a movie, especially nowadays, without my wife, and she's the silent partner in the podcast. Because we always discuss reviews, and like certain things that I'm able to see in the viewing, she'll offer her perspective. And though she has read since in the almost 8 years we've been married, she's read some comics, but she's watched like all the animated movies. We go to all that Marvel live action movies. We buy them. She watches them, rewatches them more than I do, and it was so funny. She was engaged throughout, and she was like, that really didn't feel like a 2 hour and 40 minute movie at all, which surprised me because I thought she might get a little antsy. And it was on the part where Stormbreaker was forged. I was like so giddy because if you've listened to this podcast any amount of time, you know that I'm a huge Thor fan, and I'm even a bigger Beta Ray Bill fan. And I love the little Easter egg in Thor Ragnarok of seeing Beta Ray Bill's face on top of the building Hulk was living in when they were putting up the faces of, or the stadium they were fighting in, and they had the faces of the previous champions, and you saw Beta Ray Bill's face in that little Easter egg. And so when they formed Stormbreaker and I saw it, I was like literally like a kid. Like I was like kind of jittering in my seat, like jumping up, like, yeah, Stormbreaker. So I was like, do you know what that is? And and we never really talked during these movies, but it was so many things that reflected it took me back to my childhood. I have to say, probably since Iron Man 1, I hadn't been this affected or downright giddy in enjoyment and pleasure in watching any movie, more or less comic book movie. And I was like, do you know what that is? And she was like, are you really going to pull me aside for a sidebar while the movie's playing to ask me if I know what Stormbreaker is? Like, I haven't been married to you? Yes, I know what Stormbreaker is. Yes, I know it was Beta Ray Bill's hammer. Leave me alone. I'm watching the movie. Wow. I love this woman. That's all I can say. I love this woman. I've totally converted her. It's insane. Like, I got so giddy. Like, I broke out of our normal thing. Like, we normally, we walk, we go to the movie, watch the movie, we leave, we get into the car on the drive back, we start discussing the movie, and promptly from the time we leave the movie till for the next hour to 2 hours, we talk about in detail, like, the movie. And that's kind of how I hammer out the stuff that I talk about in my review. Like, that's our normal procedure, like when we go, see the movies. And so I broke protocol, and like she put me in check, like right smack dab in the middle of the movie. But I was like so giddy, I was like freaking out. It was so many of those moments. And I'm a kid of the 80s, and I'm a big fan of the West Coast Avengers comic that came out in like mid 80s. It ran till probably late 80s, maybe early 90s, I want to say, maybe. And it was really the book that helped solidify, like, Avengers, and then Avengers West Coast really helped me solidify my love for the character of Clint Barton as Hawkeye, because it was really where when they broke off, he became the leader of the West Coast Avengers, and they put him like in that leadership role. And then years later, we saw him take over the Thunderbolts, and he was a leader. And I love seeing Hawkeye in the spotlight in that way. Though he's probably one of the most underutilized characters in the Marvel MCU, he's one of the greatest characters, I feel, in comic books when it comes to the lore of Avengers and their great, pantheon of heroes. I think he's one of the greatest and one of the most underrated for most people. Another one of the biggest storylines in the West Coast Avengers, in the mid '80s, was the love affair between Vision and Scarlet the Witch. They were members, one of the founding members of the West Coast Avengers, and some of the biggest and greatest storylines between the two and individually for the characters kind of happened in that series. And I got there, they were like the first major, I guess, love affair that I saw, like in comics that I read, and it meant a lot to me. So seeing that on film, and I love Elizabeth Olsen as Scarlet the Witch. She's really has like grown on me in each movie. It seems like she just digs more and more and gets so good in that role for me. Like, I really love her as that character. And what's his name? God, Paul Bettany. I love Paul Bettany ever since I've seen the movie Wimbledon with him and Kirsten Dunst. If you've ever seen that movie made me fall in love with that dude as an actor. I just love him. So seeing him hearing him first as the voice of Jarvis, and then him, doing the motion capture and live performance of Vision, I've just really enjoyed. And them together, they had great chemistry. So those scenes really took me back to my childhood, and that they were one of the major storylines in this film. And seeing their chemistry, it literally just in my mind took me back to reading those comics when I was like 10, 11, 12 years old, and just, did something to me. Like, I just loved it so much. And, the different relationships, the Star-Lord and the Gamora relationship, and how that finally came to a head in this film, was awesome. So it was like really cool, the different relationship stuff they had, though we didn't get much in the way of that conversation between Bruce and Nat that we wanted. It was just like that awkward moment, as War Machine said, like, awkward. It was awkward. I think we're definitely going to get more of their situation dealt with in Avengers 4 for sure. What else? The biggest surprise next to Stormbreaker was the effing Red Skull in the movie. I either said it on video, maybe I said it in my Infinity Gauntlet review, because I did some speculation, some speculatory thoughts that I had going into the movie, because I put that video out last week, a few days before I went to go see the movie this past weekend, and I was speculating myself. Maybe I said it there, or maybe I've said it here before, but I said I hope that we saw Red Skull in the movie. So when I did, I just I yelped like a puppy, like right in the movie theater. I did it. I'm not ashamed. I'm a grown man, and I yelped. So what? This movie was for me. I was a big kid. I was a big 42-year-old kid that was dancing in my seat, jumping up, cheering, clapping. I did it all during the movie. I wasn't ashamed. Okay, I was a little bit ashamed, but I still did it anyway, so whatever. Deal with it. Some of my favorite characters in the movie was by far Thanos. Thanos was my favorite character by far. This was his movie. This was clearly like his movie. They made that evident. This was Thanos' story. Kevin Feige said it. I thought, maybe he was just putting us on, but he didn't lie. This was a Thanos forward movie, and it needed to be for it to work. Thor, Doctor Strange, Rocket, Vision, Scarlet Witch, and Gamora were some of my characters. I've not been a big Gamora fan, and I've talked about that before, but I liked what they did with her until right before she got sacrificed for the Soul Stone. Like, she was really dumb, because clearly Red Skull and everybody in the movie theater clearly knew that he was about to sacrifice her, except for her. So she was the only one that didn't know that she was about to get the business, and it was just kind of sad, because she was like egging him on, and it was just like, nah, sis, nah, homie, you about to go in the hole. Like, yes. So that was quite interesting. Some of my favorite fight scenes, because there was so many in this movie, I really liked the one fight scene in the beginning where Cap, Falcon, Scarlet Witch, Black Widow were all fighting Proxima Midnight and Corvus Glaive. Now, I did some research on this. I did not realize, and again, this is with a movie like this and so much other things were resolved. They didn't do a great job building up the Black Order. That, you know, they killed Corvus Glaive in that fight, and that was Proxima Midnight's husband. And, you know, like when she was like, you're going to pay for that, you know, you're going to pay dearly for that later on in the movie. It just would have helped if we understood that they were a married couple and she had just like lost her husband. That could have been just a little something they could have added in to just would have, you know, helped boost their characters a little bit. But I felt like they served the purpose because they were like the henchmen that the Avengers were going to have to fight through to get to Thanos. But I would have liked a slightly bit more dimension added to those characters because I thought they were really cool visual characters and they were formidable characters. So I would have liked to seen them built up slightly more. Like even if they would have had to make the movie 20 minutes longer to add in just a little bit of character development for certain characters in the movie, I think it could have just helped. But and they've already said, you know, Avengers 4 is by far going to be longer than this. So I think we're going to get 3 or over a 3-hour movie in the next film for sure. I wouldn't mind, even if it was 10 minutes longer, just to put in little bits like that. That could have been a 30-second bit here, a minute there, to kind of beef up some of these small things. So you know my rating system at this point. I look at things, I look at 5 areas: acting, casting, direction, special effects, and story. And I score those on a 10-point scale, and then I average them out to get an overall final score of the movie. I gave the acting a 9 out of 10. I gave the casting a 10 out of 10. I gave the direction an 8 out of 10. Special effects a 9 out of 10, and the story an 8 out of 10. The 2 8s out of 10 I gave for the direction for the Russo brothers had less to do with them, how they directed the movie, as much as it had to do with, I felt like at certain points, certain characters were slightly uneven because they weren't being directed by the directors that did their individual movies. They were slight things. And the fact that it wasn't that character development there, that I felt like should have been there, even by a slight bit. Like I said, even if movie was like 5 to 10 minutes longer, that they could have fleshed out some of the Black Order a little bit more, would have been kind of cool. But we didn't get that. But this is nitpicking over what would have otherwise been a perfect movie. But I just felt strongly about it overall to knock them down from out of a 10 out of 10 to an 8 out of 10. Same thing with the story. Again, not much character development, and I'm huge on that in a movie, and I didn't get as much of that as I wanted through the film, but I was satisfied by everything else. And like I said, for it to be a 2-hour and 40-minute movie, it kept me on the edge of my seat and engaged, and like I said, I had more thrills and chills and payoffs than I could have imagined that I would have had it with the movie. Even in my wildest speculation, I didn't know and by any means we were going to get some of the stuff we got in this movie, and I love that they kept it a secret. Because, you know, with Age of Ultron, I remember because of all the TV spots and the trailers, I already saw the movie, so I was so disappointed and let down when I went to see the movie. I felt like I had already seen that movie, and with this, we only got most of the trailers we got in this movie was like from the first 15 minutes of the movie, and some of that last like maybe a few seconds from the end of the movie with the big fight in Wakanda. That was it. Like it was a whole middle part of this movie that we knew very little about from the trailers. And I have to say kudos to Marvel and Disney for them cutting back on that, because they have overdone it in the past with their Marvel movies when what they were putting out promotionally, that they gave you too much. So I'm glad they've been reining that in. So I had more of a payoff, and I thoroughly enjoyed the movie. So again, I would have to give this movie a 9 out of 10. When I'm looking at how I feel now about the Marvel movies and ranking them, I updated my rankings, and this is what I came up with. Thor: The Dark World is still now we got 19 movies, so they're at number 19 for me. Iron Man 2 is at 18. Iron Man 3 is at 17. The Incredible Hulk is at 16. Doctor Strange is at 15. Ant-Man is at 14. Thor Ragnarok is at 13. Thor is at 12. Captain America: The First Avenger is at 11. Guardians of the Galaxy is at 10. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 is at a 9. Spider-Man: Homecoming is at 8. The Avengers is 7. Iron Man is 6. Avengers Age of Ultron is 5. Avengers: Infinity War is 4. Captain America: Civil War is 3. Captain America: The Winter Soldier is 2. And Black Panther is still my favorite MCU movie right now. Now, what we have on the horizon, we have, again, Ant-Man and the Wasp. It comes out July 6th. So we have, we're just a day away from May. So we just have shy of just over 2 months until that drops. Then we have Captain Marvel March 8th. I couldn't remember earlier. So we have that March 8th of 2019. And then we have Avengers 4, yet to be retitled, coming out May 3rd of 2019. And then we have Spider-Man: Homecoming, July 5th of 2019. So we still have quite a bit, but it's going to be a big gap there. I mean, again, we got 2 months, then, we have like 6 or so odd months or more before we get Captain Marvel. And then before we get the answers, all the answers we need. I know we'll be having hints along the way between Ant-Man and the Wasp and Captain Marvel. But we'll get some more backstory and maybe get some holes filled in that we definitely totally need. Really enjoyed the after credit scene setting up him paging Captain Marvel. That's going to be cool. Makes me want to see that movie, so much more now. I don't know when we'll first, because they're currently filming that now, so I don't know when we would get a first trailer. I mean, maybe sometime late, like maybe with Ant-Man and the Wasp. Maybe we'll get our first teaser of Captain Marvel. Maybe who knows with that? And maybe I'm hoping we'll have a title for Avengers 4 by that time as well. Maybe we'll be getting a trailer for that. I don't know how they're gonna do that, since I think they're in the mid of reshoots or getting ready to do reshoots for, or they might have already done it, because again, they went right into they went right into production, and it was right around the time last year of when they finished Infinity War. They took a week break. They were doing Comic-Con, and they were going right back. They were overseas already filming scenes for Avengers 4. So I don't think they're still filming after a year, but I do know they probably have reshoots scheduled. I don't think they've done them already. I could be wrong, and they might have, but it remains to be seen, because they've been keeping so much stuff secretive, of course, especially with the mic drop they had at the end of this movie. So it remains to be seen. So we might be seeing a trailer for either one of those movies coming up, and I think they're going to be filming Spider-Man: Homecoming 2, or whatever it's going to be, the name title is that going to be. I think that's filming this summer, and I think I heard something online when I think it said it's going to start filming in July, maybe, of this summer. So that's going to be going into production soon. Again, like I said, Captain Marvel's been shooting for, I think it started at the beginning of this month. So, they're well underway on their production. We know, again, Ant-Man and Wasp, I think, is pretty much finished and just waiting to drop in July. But we got good stuff coming, on the horizon for us. And like I said, I thoroughly enjoy this, and I'm ready to see where some of these storylines and some of these plot lines go coming forward. But that's all I have for you guys for this week. I hope you enjoyed the episode. As always, you can follow me on social media at Comic Book Savant on Twitter, or on Instagram, just at Comic Book Savant. Also, check out the website. It's just www.comicbooksavant.com. I have links to all the social media that you can follow me on. You can subscribe to the podcast via iTunes there. If you want to help support the show, I have a link to my Patreon page as well. I have some, benefits set up there. that will explain to you what are the benefits of becoming a Patreon, helping support the show, and some of the benefits you get by doing that. I got some little tiers set up there, so definitely check that out. Would appreciate if you can support the show. If you would, it really goes, like, everything that you guys do through there goes back into the show. Need to upgrade equipment and things like that, so that would totally help on that front. If you do that, again, I'm your host, James Harris. That's all I have for you this week. I will see you next time on another episode of Comic Book Savant. And you guys take care and have a good week. See you soon.